Hello, all you freedom-loving people. President Trump picked a new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the settlement talks with Ukraine for rare earth mineral rights are starting to twist and turn. Okay, let's get into it. On Friday night, President Trump abruptly fired Air Force General Charles Q. Brown as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he nominated retired Air Force Lieutenant General Dan Raisin Kane to be the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Kane's being picked was a bit of a surprise. So who is Dan Kane? He is a career fighter jet pilot who patrolled the skies over Washington, D.C. during the 9/11 attacks. He served in the Middle East during the fight against the Islamic State, and then he worked at the CIA. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the nation's highest-ranking military officer, as well as the principal military advisor to the President, to the Secretary of Defense, and to the National Security Council. Kane is not well known, though. Several officials on Capitol Hill and the Pentagon told NPR that they had to Google his name. Generally, a nominee for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff must have served as a vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or as a chief of staff of a military department, or a chief of a combat command. This is a legal requirement. The president, of course, has the power to waive these requirements. Kane has never held any of these positions, so why was he chosen? It starts with how President Trump met him. He was deputy commander in the U.S. campaign against ISIS in Iraq and Syria between May of 2018 and September of 2019 when he first met President Trump. President Trump talked about when he first met him at CPAC in 2019. When they first met, Kane had suggested that the Islamic State could be defeated in a week. President Trump said, 1 week, I was told 2 years. President Trump said that he asked Kane to explain. And Kane said that the issue was that his orders come from D.C. rather than from being informed by the field. President Trump said that Kane told him, we're only hitting them from a temporary base in Syria. But if you gave us permission, we could hit them from the back, from the side, from all over, from the base that you're right on right now, sir. They won't know what the hell hit them. You're the first one to ask us our opinion. So President Trump said, so I went back and I said, I'm going to get back to you soon, Raisin. I think you're great. We have the greatest military in the world, but we don't have the greatest top leadership. That's why Afghanistan was such a horrible situation and so embarrassing and so many other things. So when we want to, with proper leadership, there's nobody even close to us. President Trump said on Wednesday, General Raisin Kane he's some general. He's a real general, not a television general. That's why President Trump nominated General Kane as the nation's highest-ranking military officer. General Kane's nomination is unusual in several ways. First, General Kane was retired. The recall of retired generals to active duty is rare, but it has happened before. For example, General Peter Schoomaker was recalled to serve as Chief of Staff of the Army in 2003. It's also highly unusual for a 3-star general to receive their 4th star upon being elevated to chair. Past chairmen have received their 4-star by first leading a combat command or serving as a service chief before becoming the top military position. But Kane had been in an unexpected position before, serving at Andrews Air Force Base near Washington, D.C. on the morning of 9/11. Though he wasn't scheduled to fly that day, he eventually became the mission commander for the national threat watching over the Capitol. Still, there are those who take the information superficially and conclude that General Kane got his nomination because of his political stance. A military official who served with Kane and who has known him for over a decade told CNN, there is a little bit of a narrative out there that he was picked because he's a partisan guy. In my personal experience and professional experience, I've never seen any indication of that. And knowing him, he's never been partial to any political party or mentioned anything about politics in our time together. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth fully supports President Trump's nomination of General Kane. The president is supposed to pick his team of key national security and military advisors, and former presidents have also done so.
Some big changes at the Pentagon in personnel and leadership and assignments. Senator Reid, who is, as you know, a veteran, he is the ranking member on Senate Armed Services Committee, wrote this. He says, a clear message is being sent to military leaders. failure to demonstrate personal and political loyalty to Trump could result in retribution even after decades of honorable service. Goes on to say his military officers must remain free to give their best military advice without fear of reprisal. Is there room in military leadership for those who have loyalty to President Trump, but to those who may feel like that could be in conflict at some point to the Constitution?
That's a total mischaracterization from Senator Reid, as has been most of the hyperbole in the press around this. There is civilian control of the military. Nothing about this is unprecedented. The president deserves to pick his key national security and military advisory team. There are lots of presidents who've made changes, from FDR to Eisenhower to H.W. Bush to Barack Obama, who fired or dismissed hundreds of militaries during his term.
Most importantly, General Kane demonstrated his military prowess.
And Dan Raising Kane is going to be a fantastic chairman. I look forward to working with him, and he will give straightforward advice, as he did to President Trump, on the defeat of ISIS. No one else said it could be done in a matter of weeks. Raising Kane said it could, and guess what? It happened. And the president respects leaders who untie the hands of warfighters in a very dangerous world. I think Dan Kane's the man to meet the moment.
Chris Miller, who served as President Trump's last acting Secretary of Defense in President Trump's first term, said, "I know he's non-traditional, but that's kind of what this administration looks for." Miller told the Associated Press that Kane definitely knows how the Pentagon works. He brings a perspective that is not traditional for a chairman, which I think will be a breath of fresh air. Germany held its much-anticipated election on Sunday. Late last year, the ruling coalition led by Chancellor Olaf Scholz collapsed due to disagreements, prompting an early election in Germany. The election will result in a new chancellor and a new government. Exit polls published by the public television channels German broadcaster ARD and the German broadcaster ADF showed Friedrich Merz's conservative coalition with about 29% of the vote, which is well ahead of its rivals. He told cheering supporters, "Let's celebrate tonight, and in the morning we'll get to work." He said he was aware of the responsibility that now lies ahead of him. The right-wing alternative for Germany, the AfD party, is in second place with 20%, which is twice as much as 4 years ago. It is also a historic record for the party, which was founded in 2013. Party leader Alice Weidel hailed the party's historic achievement. She declared, "We've never been stronger nationally." Bjorn Hoek, the ADF's leader in Thuringia, told CNN that the German people don't want to continue as is. They want change, and the ADF stands for change. President Trump said on True Social that the results of the German election represents a shift in public opinion. He wrote, "Much like the USA, the people of Germany got tired of the no common sense agenda, especially on energy and immigration, that has prevailed for so many years. This is a great day for Germany." For weeks, the ADF had received strong support from members of the Trump team. Elon Musk kept promoting Alice Weidel on X, and they even gave a video address at a conference. Vice President J.D. Vance met with some of the ADF party leadership during his recent visit to the Munich Security Conference, but he criticized the ruling party's policy of censoring speech.
And I really do believe that allowing our citizens to speak their mind will make them stronger still. Which, of course, brings us back to Munich, where the organizers of this very conference have banned lawmakers representing populist parties on both the left and the right from participating in these conversations. Now, again, we don't have to agree with everything or anything that people say. But when when political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them. Now, to many of us on the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way or, even worse, win an election.
And just as he said, the Social Democratic Party, led by outgoing Chancellor Scholz, won only about 16% of the vote. It was an unprecedented defeat for Germany's oldest party. Scholz said, "This is a bitter election result for the Social Democratic Party, and it's also an electoral defeat." Another loser was the Greens, an ally of Scholz's government, which won only about 13% of the vote. However, since the Conservative coalition does not have more than 50% support, it will need to form a coalition government with other parties. But its leader, Merz, will not work with the AfD party. It will probably work with the Social Democrats or the Greens. However, there are significant differences between the parties on immigration and economic policy, which is an obstacle to the formation of a government. The far-left Link Party also looks to have made significant gains, surging to 8.5% of the total vote share. And the neoconservative left-wing party, the BSW, which advocates stopping arms supply to Ukraine, has roughly 5% support. Today marks the third anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, and today, Britain announced new sanctions against Russia. These new measures extend existing British sanctions against the elite who supported Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. Individuals associated with high levels of the Russian government will also be included in the ban. This will include a number of senior politicians, government officials, and business people. Meanwhile, last week, the European Union approved the 16th round of sanctions against Russia. Their package includes a phased ban on Russian aluminum products, as well as further restrictions on the sale of Russian crude oil. The mainstream attitude in Europe is that Putin is a bad guy and should be punished. But in the United States, different voices have emerged in the mainstream political arena. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff said that Russia is not necessarily responsible for the war in Ukraine and that Ukraine's attempt to join NATO was one of the main reasons for the outbreak of the war.
That the war didn't need to happen. It was provoked. It doesn't necessarily mean it was provoked by the Russians. There were all kinds of conversations back then about Ukraine joining NATO. The president has spoken about this. That didn't need to happen. It basically became a threat to the Russians. And so we have to deal with that fact. And those are real facts on the ground here.
The White House retains an optimistic view of the peace talks. The White House believes that a deal with Russia could be reached as soon as this week, and this view was echoed by Witkoff.
The Russians have indicated that they are responsive to an end to this. There were very, very, what I'll call cogent and substantive negotiations framed in something that's called the Istanbul Protocol Agreement. We came very, very close to signing something, and I think we'll be using that framework as a guidepost to get a peace deal done between Ukraine and Russia, and I think that will be an amazing day. And the fact is, the president understands how to get deals done. Deals only work, Jake, when they're good for all the parties, and that's the pathway that we're on here.
But Europe is deeply worried about the agreement being reached so quickly. French President Macron visited the White House today, and on Thursday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will meet with President Trump. Both European leaders are expected to try to persuade President Trump to avoid rushing into a ceasefire with Putin at any cost. Before the press conference, President Trump sat with President Macron in the White House, and he told reporters about the progress that they have made so far.
Well, thank you very much. We very much appreciate the attention. Today's a big day in that we had a G7, and President Macron is a very special man in my book. We were together, we did it together, and I think a lot of progress has been made. We've had some very good talks with Russia. We've had some very good talks with others, and we're trying to get the war ended with Russia and Ukraine, and I think we've come a long way in a short period of weeks. And the president's been very helpful also. And we're also talking about trade, various trade deals that we will be doing with France, and we'll be discussing a little bit further. Then we'll have a press conference later when you can ask some questions. We'll be having a press conference in a little while. We're going to have lunch with the entire French staff, and we look forward to it. And again, the relationship's been very special with France and very special with this gentleman on my right, and we look forward to keeping that going for a long period of time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Trump also suggested that they are close to a deal with Ukraine. They are on the 1-yard line, according to Scott Bessent.
It looks like we're getting very close. The deal's being worked on, and we're I think, getting very close to getting an agreement where we get our money back over a period of time. But it also gives us something where I think it's very beneficial to their economy, to them as a country. But, you know, we're in for $350 billion. How we got there, I don't know, but that's a lot of money, a lot of money invested, and we had nothing to show for it. And it was the Biden administration's fault. The Europeans are in for about $100 billion, and they do it in the form of a loan. And the Europeans have been great on this issue. They understood it wasn't fair, and we were able to work something out. But with the Ukrainians, I think I can say that we're very close. Scott's around here someplace, and I think we can say that we're very. Hi, Scott. I think we're very close. Do you have something to say about that, Scott?
We are very close. The
Good.
1 yard line.
All right, good.
Mr. President.
And after the meeting, President Trump posted saying, "I emphasize the importance of the vital, critical minerals and rare earths deal between the United States and Ukraine, which we hope will be signed very soon." Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky said on Sunday that the Trump administration's proposal to be compensated for their aid with $500 billion in strategic mineral revenues has been withdrawn. But a fairer deal is being negotiated. The details of the negotiations have not been made public. However, Ukraine still wants to secure U.S. security guarantees against possible future Russian aggression, and U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that the goal of the agreement was to create a U.S.-Ukraine partnership, which he said would result in a win-win situation.
This deal is part of President Trump's long arc negotiating strategy for peace between Ukraine and Russia, and to let the Ukrainians get back to a peaceful existence. So the first part of this is a partnership between Ukraine and the U.S. that involves strategic minerals, energy, and state-owned enterprises, where we set up a partnership, and we are only looking forward. It is a win-win. President Trump created this idea himself. It is a win-win. We make money if the Ukrainian people make money, and I believe that with the United States of America, our know-how, our businesses willing to come in and provide capital, that we can accelerate the Ukrainian growth trajectory and take in substantial monies for the U.S. taxpayers and get the Ukrainian economy on a great growth trajectory.
This round of talks was preceded by a heated war of words between the two sides. It now appears that all this was done to secure favorable bargaining terms in the negotiations, so we need not be too concerned about the content of their quarrels. This was just one of their negotiating techniques. On Saturday, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, sent an email to 2.3 million federal employees from an Office of Personnel Management account. The email demanded employees to reply with 5 bullet points and to detail what they accomplished at work last week. The email came after President Trump posted on Saturday on Truth Social saying, "Elon is doing a great job, but I would like to see him get more aggressive. Remember, we have a country to save, but ultimately to make greater than ever before, MAGA." Elon Musk quickly responded on X saying, "Will do, Mr. President." Then Musk also explained on X by saying, consistent with President Donald Trump's instructions, all federal employees will shortly receive an email requesting to understand what they got done last week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation. On the same day, President Trump attended the Conservative Political Action Conference, the CPAC, near Washington. Speaking at the CPAC, he laid out a broader vision for reshaping the federal workplace. President Trump said, "If they don't report for work, we're firing them. In other words, you have to go to the office, right?" President Trump vowed to enforce strict workplace attendance, to eliminate remote work privileges, and to expose government employees who are engaged in outside employment. He said that many federal employees work second jobs while getting paid by the government. And on Sunday morning, Musk provided more explanations about why the email was sent out. He wrote, The reason this matters is that a significant number of people who are supposed to be working for the government are doing so little that they are not checking their emails at all. In some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there is outright fraud. House Speaker Mike Johnson also said today that Elon Musk is inside the federal agencies with new algorithms crawling through spending transactions.
And the Congress, we could have oversight. The problem is, for decades, as we know, we haven't been able to do that job well, because even though we requested the data and requested the insight, it was hidden. How many of you know that bureaucracy was not forthcoming, right? They're not transparent. That's the whole point. That's the problem. That's the deep state we talk about. So they were hiding from Congress. We didn't know that USAID was funding drag shows in Peru or whatever, transgender operas in Colombia or whatever, It's madness. But Elon has cracked the code. He is now inside the agencies. He's created these algorithms that are constantly crawling through the data, and as he told me in his office, the data doesn't lie. We're going to be able to get the information. We're going to be able to transform the way the federal government works at the end of this, and that is a very exciting prospect. It is truly a revolutionary moment for the nation.
And now the enforcement wing of the new administration is up and running. After Kash Patel was sworn in on Friday, Dan Bongino was appointed as the Deputy Director of the FBI.
It's not going to be the last show, but we've only got a few more left with you. So obviously we're going to be working with a team of people to make this transition from me, political commentator Dan, to Deputy Director of the FBI Dan. Those are different roles, require different skills. Skills I have and have used before and I plan to use again. It's going to hurt to leave you. I'll discuss over the course of the coming days. I'll be with you for a little bit longer on radio and on my show. I will discuss exactly what's going to happen. It's not going to impact Avita or Haley's content at all. My wife has been running the business for a long time. I don't get involved with the business at all. I do the talking. But I want to ask you, who's next? Who's next? This isn't just about me, folks. The do matters. Who's next? I said last week, and a couple of media critics commented, I said, we're all going to have to take it on the chin a little bit. Now do you see what I meant? I never got in this for the money or notoriety. Listen, I enjoy making money and that I can impact people's lives and that people come out and say nice things to me as much as the next guy. But if you think that's why I got involved in this, running as a Republican in deep blue Maryland, my life of activism and my time in the Secret Service, if you think I get into the Secret Service to get rich, and you don't know me and you haven't seen the government salary scale. But I am going in this clear-eyed. Vision of President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and Director Patel. I am going to do my job to implement that vision. And I can tell you right now, we are going to try our best. Every single thing I have in me, every single strand of DNA cell in my body is going to be dedicated towards keeping this homeland safe, no matter what. No matter what. That's my job. We're going to reestablish faith in this institution. The good people there doing their job, hitting the streets, developing sources. We'll have your back. We are going to reestablish faith in this institution. The FBI belongs to the American people. Doesn't belong to me. Doesn't belong to anyone else but the American people. But this is the honor of a lifetime, and it's a serious mission. And I plan on implementing that vision.
And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that some of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.